Before we dive into the shadows of this tale, I invite you to join me on this journey by subscribing to the channel. Your support not only helps me share these stories, but also ensures that we can explore the mysteries of the unknown together. In the whispers of the past, we find countless narratives waiting to be unearthed. Stories from the elderly, rich with wisdom and experience, that reveal the thin veil between our world and the inexplicable. This particular story is but one of many, a glimpse into the lives of ordinary people who have encountered the extraordinary. Whether it's a lingering illness, an unsettling presence, or something far more enigmatic, these experiences challenge our understanding of reality. So let us embark on this exploration, where the line between the natural and the supernatural blurs, and where every shadow holds a secret waiting to be discovered. I am a mere 22 years old, and I am in my third year of studying law. This incident began on one of the days when I was at home, browsing some Facebook pages. I came across a page called Blood Under the Feet, which discussed how to summon the jinn. Honestly, I didn't fully understand the connection between blood under the feet and summoning the jinn, and I didn't see the point of it. I entered the page and found posts and pictures about attracting a lover, getting a spouse back, and many other things related to magic. Of course, I had some information about these topics, and sometimes I would search this field. One day I saw a post that said, "Black magic for summoning the lower creature." It was the first time in my life I had heard about a lower creature. I had heard of black magic before, but I had never heard of a lower creature. The post stated that this creature was created before Adam, and that the way to summon it was easy. For beginners, it was written that you must read a specific 150-character text within 30 seconds, and that you should not cut your nails for 3 days, nor should you perform ablution or pray on the day you start the process. You must say these words exactly as written. Naturally, I won't explain more than this, as some of you might want to try those words. You should say them on Wednesday, Saturday, or Monday, between sunset and dawn. After that, the lower creature will appear to you. I kept thinking to myself, these things are for the inexperienced. Of course, I didn't like this post, so I sent a message to the page asking them why they were spreading these stories, which seemed childish to me. I urged them to respect people's minds and stop lying. A minute later, the page owner replied and told me, "Try it, and you won't lose anything." Due to my stubbornness, I responded, "What if I try it and prove to you that all of this is nonsense? I'll post on your page that you are liars and frauds." He told me, "But if something happens to you, don't come to me and say I'm the cause." I replied, "The matter is already settled. Nothing will happen because what you wrote is all lies and myths." 3 days later, Wednesday arrived, and I started to follow the steps. I was doing everything exactly as written in the post, and I was sure that all of this was nonsense and myths. Monday came and I completed the final steps. Then I went to sleep, eagerly waiting for the next day to prove to him that he was lying and deceiving people. In fact, I slept very well that night and I was very excited. But in the morning, I saw something strange. The pictures on my desk all had my face in them, and it looked as though someone had drawn around my eyes with black ink. It wasn't just one picture. All of them were like this. But why was it only my picture? Why were there marks on my photos while there was no issue with the pictures of my brother, sister, or parents? I asked everyone at home, who tampered with these pictures? They all replied that they didn't know. I thought to myself, could that story be true as that person told me, or is it a trick? How should I act now? That day, he sent me a private message on Facebook and asked, "What did you do? Did you try it?" I replied, "Yes, I tried." He asked, "So did anything happen or not?" I said, "Nothing happened." He replied, "Then you are lying. Something happened to you, and I'm sure it did. Tell me what happened. Maybe I can help or advise you." At that moment, I felt like I had lost the bet, and this would teach me that stubbornness leads to no result. I thought to myself, my life is more important. Maybe something will happen, or maybe nothing will happen to me. So I became honest with him and said, actually, something did happen. The pictures changed. Everyone in the family was at home, and all my pictures were covered with ink. He told me this is just the beginning. I asked him, what should I do now? He replied, do nothing, wait for your fate. I said, God willing, it will be fine. Then I asked him for his phone number so I could talk to him. I heard an unexpected reply. He said, Maybe it's not me who's talking to you, and maybe it's not me who's sending you these messages. I asked, what do you mean? He said, sometimes something comes to me that I can't control. They are the ones who control me. I said, you must be joking. What are you talking about? He replied, anyway, I don't want to help you anymore. I answered, no, neither I nor anyone else can help you. You are the one who brought this upon yourself. Now I am alone. His words really scared me a lot, but I kept thinking about what would happen to me. Night came, and it was around 11 o'clock when I went to lie down to sleep, thinking about everything that had happened. I fell asleep and had a very strange dream. I dreamt that I was in our house, but the house was empty. There was nothing in it, no bedding, everything was gone. In my room, a black cat appeared to me. Its eyes were strange. Its left eye was red, and the right one was normal, and there were signs of injuries in its eyes. Its front legs were shattered, and the cat was not looking at me. It was looking at someone beside me or behind me. I looked behind me and saw an old man. He was very old, and his facial features were distorted, but his eyes were like those of a snake. I asked him, who are you and what are you doing in the house? I heard a strange sound behind me, and when I looked back, I saw the cat, but it was the same height as me. It struck me in the stomach, and blood started to flow from me. I woke up terrified from the dream and kept saying, I seek refuge in Allah from the accursed devil, in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Even though I had woken up, it felt as though the dream was real, and there was a feeling of tightness in my chest. I went to wash my face and change my clothes, and I noticed the scratches that the cat had caused in my dream. I kept wondering, is this real? And was the person who had been talking to me the one behind all of this? It became clear to me at that moment that I would suffer a lot because of this. I regretted it then and kept asking myself, what have I done with my life? The days passed, and every night I would dream the same dream, but I didn't tell anyone about what was happening to me. Then one day I was sleeping in my bed, and suddenly I woke up in the middle of the night and found a piece of bread in my hand. I woke up terrified, wondering, who put this bread in my hand? I looked carefully, not knowing what to do. I decided to read the Quran, so I went to the radio to turn it on, but the speaker ignited before I could operate the device, and it set the whole device on fire. I ran and brought water to put it out, and then the house lights started working again. The light kept turning off and on. I thought maybe the electricity would be cut off, and sure enough, the light went out in an instant. Of course, I didn't notice anything, and the candle was in a corner of the house. Before I could reach to turn the light on, the candle ignited by itself in the corner. Oh God, there was no one in my room. Who lit the candle? I entered the room trying to calm myself down, but I felt something strange. There was someone sitting on my bed with their back turned to me. It was almost the same man I had seen in the dream. I stepped back and wanted to go to my parents' room. I heard a sound coming from my bed, as if someone was sitting on it. When I looked again, I saw the old man once more, and he was right beside the bed. Suddenly, I felt a gust of wind hit my back, and the candle went out, plunging the room into darkness again. I was very scared and kept praying, "Oh Lord, save me from this moment." I kept telling myself, I will never do this again. But in those moments, I heard my mother calling me, just like a mother lovingly calls her son. My mother was calling me in the same way, Amir, my son, Amir, my dear. I stayed silent, unable to speak, as if I were paralyzed. She kept calling me, saying it, Amir, Amir, in a weak voice. I asked, Mom, is that you? She replied, yes, my son. I see you in front of me. Can't you see me? Oh God, what is this that I hear? As for me, I felt struck blind, or I was dreaming. The world was dark, so I said to her, you are not my mother. Her voice began to change, and she said to me, come here. I will torment you. If you do not come, I will burn you with fire. And her voice started to become rough, and my heart was about to stop. I kept saying, oh my Lord, am I dreaming? And is what is happening now not real? And indeed, it was real. The candle returned to its place by itself, and shadows began to appear to me in the house. One of them was standing and looking in my direction, and the other was walking and looking at the ground. In the meantime, there was a person standing at the entrance of the house. I was in a state of shock. I tried to call out to my mom, my dad, or anyone else, hoping they would respond and save me. The shadows in the room started moving toward the door and disappeared, but I could tell by the sound of their footsteps that they were getting closer to me. I felt intense heat in front of me, as if a fire was burning right there, and in a moment I felt my head collide with the wall and the ground, as though I had hit it on my own. I tried to resist, but there was no use and I lost consciousness. I woke up, opened my eyes and saw the sky, the moon, and the stars. I thought to myself, where am I? I smelled the scent of earth, and when I looked beside me, I saw written, the grave of al-Salahi Shu'aib. In that moment, I realized that I was in a cemetery, and I told myself, I must be dreaming. But why couldn't I wake up from this dream? I kept talking to myself, saying, is this real? How did I get here, and why am I naked without clothes? I remained for a while, leaning on my back until that old man I saw in the dream appeared to me. His face was dark to the point that his features disappeared, and only his white eyes remained, staring in a certain direction. I looked in the direction he pointed to and found a grave with the inscription, here lies the late Malachi, the Forsaken. I felt an unusual drowsiness, and the image of the old man faded from before me, and the world spun around me. Then I lost consciousness again. I woke up, but this time I was in my bed, and the thing that confirmed to me that this was not a dream, it was the bruises on my head from hitting the wall and the ground. I woke up from the bed, and my whole body was shattered, and I couldn't move. I got out of the room, and my father saw me and asked, what happened to you? Did you fall or something? I told him, I was walking by myself and fell in front of you. He asked, what's that on your face? I said, nothing, I can't talk much. My mother said, my son, your face is badly hurt. Are you okay? I answered them, no, I just fell from the bed last night. My father told my mother, let me find out who did this to him. I kept thinking to myself, if I tell them what happened to me, will they believe me? Will they take me to the hospital for the mentally ill? There was no one around to say anything. I felt that there was something watching me. An idea occurred to me, and although it wouldn't solve the problem, at least I would know what was happening to me. I decided to install surveillance cameras in the house, but without my father and mother knowing. I was lucky that day, as they were going to the doctor to see my grandmother, who was sick, and I had time from 2 in the afternoon until their return late at night. I brought in the man who installs surveillance systems, and he asked me a question, but he said, don't be upset with me. I told him, I know what it will be, but just ask. He said to me, why do you want to install a surveillance system? I told him, I suspect there are thieves breaking into the house. He said, if there are thieves, you can install cameras at the door. That will help. I replied, maybe they're coming through the window. He said, may God reward you. Just don't ask me too many questions. Just work with me, please. I asked him to install cameras in the kitchen, in my room, in the living room, and also at the door. The man seemed puzzled, but I couldn't tell him that I was watching something supernatural because I knew he would think I was crazy. Anyway, he finished his work, I paid him, and he took his fee and left. I sat on the chair in front of the TV and started watching. I stayed there for a long time, feeling distressed and anxious, and everything in my mind was jumbled. I remained in a state of contemplation. Then I began to feel drowsy. I placed my head on the desk for a moment and dozed off. I slept for about 2 hours in that position. The time was late at night, and I couldn't understand how I fell asleep like that, leaning on the desk. After I woke up, I went back to the surveillance camera recordings. I kept watching the videos, seeing myself asleep. Maybe the cameras had captured something, but I fainted from what I saw in the footage because the things I watched were things that only happened in horror movies. In the recording, I saw myself sleeping at a certain moment, then suddenly waking up. I took a pen and started scribbling on the wall, but not in a normal way. These were scribbles forming a message, words that seemed to refer to something dark. I found, under the scribbles I had written, words written in a strange way, the earth creature, and scattered letters containing the letters Dad, Sheen, Meme, and Wal. I didn't understand the meaning of these words. I was sleepwalking, but what was strange was that when I watched the footage from the camera, I noticed that my eyes flickered in a strange way. Then I smiled, left the room, and entered the bathroom. Of course, I hadn't installed cameras in the bathroom. I continued watching the recording, waiting for myself to come out of the bathroom. But what was strange was that no one came out. I kept rewinding the video several times, but I never exited the bathroom. Honestly, I couldn't believe what was happening to me. I began reciting the Quran and kept trying to focus until I started hearing a sound in the house. Despite that, I felt very suffocated. I said to myself, either I will die or I need to take something to numb myself so I don't feel what is happening. A good idea came to me. Drugs, that is the solution I need. The devil was playing in my head. I called my friend who has experience in this field. I talked to Zane and said to him, "Hello, Zane, come to my house and bring with you all the types of drugs you know." He replied, "What a surprise, my friend. You have been telling me repeatedly that you wouldn't try, and you say no, advising me to stop this, and now you come and ask me to bring you something." I told him, "This is not the time for jokes, my friend. Come before my mother returns." My parents would be back in a quarter of an hour. When Zane arrived, I led him into the house and said to him, "I want something that will make me lose consciousness." He asked me, "Why is that? Is your heart not broken? Or has your girlfriend left you? Or what happened to you, my friend?" I felt annoyed and said to him, "Why are you acting this way, my friend? Just do what I tell you." I didn't know why I shouted at him like that, and he was laughing with me. He said to me, "Okay, do what you want. I will prepare something for you that will make you forget this world you are in." I started taking the drugs until I no longer felt or saw anything in front of me, and that was what I wanted. The last thing I saw was Zane rushing out of the house. I saw some cats approaching me, and my nerves were relaxed. In a moment, I saw my father and mother entering. My mother was crying while my father was shouting, but I couldn't hear well what they were saying. I was only watching the movement of their lips, and I couldn't hear what my father or mother was saying. Suddenly, an idea struck me. "Get up and run!" I stood up, opened the door, and ran out into the street. I kept running like a madman, falling and getting back up, and people were afraid to approach me. At one moment, I fell to the ground, and the last thing I saw was an elderly woman helping me to get up. Her voice came to my ear at that moment. She was saying, "Glory be to God and praise Him. Glory be to God the Almighty." This was the last thing I heard. Then I closed my eyes and said nothing. I didn't know how long I had slept until I woke up and found myself on a bed, and the world was very dark. I couldn't see anything in front of me, but I could hear something knocking beside me. I focused on the sound and heard something hitting the wall and falling to the ground. As my vision began to clear, I realized that what was hitting the wall were human teeth, and there was a large body whose features I couldn't see. It was a huge body hitting its teeth with its hands and throwing them against the wall. Out of sheer fear, I fell to the ground, and the door opened, and that old woman entered and turned on the light. She said to me, calm down, my son." I asked her, "How can I calm down? There is someone in this house pulling out their teeth and hitting them against the wall." She said, "In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, my son, there is no one here but you, me, and my daughter." I told her, "I know you won't help me, but what happened to me is very strange." She said, "You are talking in your sleep and saying strange things. I didn't understand anything from it." Then she said, "It seems you are suffering from many problems." I said to her, "Yes, I have a problem, and it will drive me crazy." She said to me, "Tell me, my son, I am like your mother." I said to her, "Honestly, I accidentally summoned a jinn, and it went back and saw something." I told her, "By God, it was an accident because of my stubbornness, and I don't know what to do now." Suddenly, a beautiful girl entered. She looked at the woman and said to me, "This is my daughter, Layla. Don't talk to her because she is trapped. They said there was a sorcerer for her, and no one could break her spell." She was holding a musical instrument in her hands. I asked her, "Do you play?" She nodded her head, as if to say yes. She said to me, "Her playing is very beautiful." She said to me, "I can help you. I know someone who understands these matters, who works in the herbal shop. His name is Abdul Salam." I said to her, "I hope he knows how to break this for me." She said, "God willing, my son." I said to her, "But I can't stay here. I have to go." She said to me, "Where will you go at 3 in the morning? Do you have a place to go to now?" I said to her, "Honestly, no." She said to me, well, stay with us tonight and tomorrow we will go. I said to her, may God reward you, but people like you are very few. She said to me, my son, it seems you are kind and a good boy, and perhaps God sent me to help you. I said to her, may God grant you health, O Haja. She said to me, I will go get you something to eat. I apologized to her and said, no need. But she insisted and said, no, you must eat. She went out, and her daughter kept looking at me, and I understood from her that she was asking me for my name. I told her, Amir. Then she made a gesture, as if she was asking me about my age. I told her, 22 years old. She indirectly indicated that she was 20 years old. I asked her, can you play something for us now to listen to? She started to play, and her playing was very beautiful. Her mother brought me food and everything, but I wasn't ready to sleep normally. I told her daughter, stay, please, play a little, don't go out. She kept playing until I was overcome by drowsiness, and for the first time I was able to sleep without worry. After I woke up and opened my eyes, light was coming in from the window. I found Layla sleeping in the chair. I felt like I was at home as if I had grown up here, and these people were like my family. I left the room and slept in the car. After a while, that woman came and woke me up. I got up and sat, and she said, what is this, Amir, my brother? Don't play with me about these things. May God have mercy on your parents. I replied, I am standing next to you. She said, come on, brother, let's leave here quickly. Suddenly we heard a voice saying, why, Zayn, you are my son. What have you not been raised? Zayn said, Father, is that you? Then the voice repeated again, saying, Zayn, you have not been raised. Come here. Zayn said, I seek refuge in God from the accursed devil. What is this? Then a flash of light shone in my face, and he asked me, who is calling me? After that, we heard a very tired voice. Zayn, Zayn, Zayn. Zayn sat on his knees and began to cry. I said to him, don't be afraid. Get up from the ground, pick up the phone. It has fallen on the ground, and the flash has gone out. He said, I will die. I will die. I said to him, be quiet, don't scream. But honestly, I didn't know how he could scream at that moment from the terror we had experienced. Even I didn't hate the idea of screaming and crying after what we had seen at that moment. We saw a person holding a candle in our house, and that light from the candle began to approach. Zayn stood up, and we saw this scene. We saw a candle floating in the air by itself, lit, and it stood in the middle of the hall. Suddenly someone pressed it, and the world filled with darkness, and there was no breath or sound. I said to him, Zayn, Zayn, where are you? I returned to the light and found Zayn lying on the ground, and blood was flooding the place. I saw this scene and didn't know how I reacted. I ran, opened the door, and went out. All I could think about was that Zayn had died, and that I would be held accountable for that. The first thing I thought of was to return to the mother of Layla. Indeed, I went to her, and I knocked on the door. The mother of Layla opened for me. Her face had changed, and I entered. She asked me, where have you been, my son? And why is your face pale? I said to her, what happened to my face? She said, what is this on your face? I put my hand on my face and indeed found some marks. I wanted to see the herbalist again, and she said, why? I said to her, he is the only hope I have left. My friend died because of me. She opened her eyes wide, took my hand and said, sit down, calm down, and tell me everything. When I sat down, I began to tell her what had happened. We heard a knock on the door of the house. Between each knock, there were about 3 seconds. I felt danger, so I said to the mother of Layla, don't open the door, come here, sit next to me. I went and opened the door, but I found no one. However, the light in the hallway of the building was off. The mother of Layla looked at that and said, that light should not have gone out. It is not supposed to be off. Maybe today I saw that and said to her, I don't feel reassured about this matter. We went back inside and I closed the door. And when I looked back, the door knocked again. That knock was not normal, as if a group of hands knocked on the door at the same time. I answered the phone and found my father's number. I answered it, and he said to me, my son, forgive us. Come back home and don't commit suicide. Your mother will kill herself over you. We have forgiven you. I said to him, who told you? He said, my son, if I received a message saying you would commit suicide. I replied, "What are you saying? Who sent the message?" He said, "If it reached me on the phone." I said to him, "Look, my father did not believe anything, nor did he send me anything or tell me anything." He said, "My son, what is happening?" I replied, "I will explain everything to you later." He said, "Okay, when will you come home?" I told him, "I will finish some things and come back." I said, "I apologize to you and your mother. Forgive me a lot, for I am not guilty of anything." He said, "We believe you, my son." I reassured him and said, "Don't worry, I will return." He said, "Take care of yourself, my son." I finished the call with my father and the phone rang again. It was Zane calling. I thought to myself, these must be the police, but they won't know that I killed him. I answered the phone and found Zane talking. I asked him, "How are you? Are you still alive?" He said, "Yes, I am still alive. When I woke up from the fall, my friend happened to come and took me to the hospital, and I found written on the wall that you would commit suicide. I told him, don't think about that. The important thing is that you are okay." He said, "Yes." Then I said to him, "Zane, forgive me for the problems I caused you." He said, "You have been my friend for years, and you are not guilty. I saw everything with my own eyes, and God is with you in what you are going through." I heard a knock on the door again, but this time the sound was coming from inside the house, not from outside. I saw the mother of Layla and asked them, "Where is the sound coming from?" The mother of Layla said to me in a calm voice, "The sound is coming from inside the house, my son." I asked her, "Why did you turn off the light inside?" She said, "I didn't turn off the light. It went out by itself." I told them, "Come to me, don't stay away." They approached me, but the light in the house had completely gone out, and the moment of silence was very terrifying. I called the mother of Layla quietly, but she did not respond. I went towards Layla and held her hand, but I felt that Layla's hand was very rough and cold, and it had some bumps. I asked her, "Why is your hand like this, Layla?" I turned on the flashlight on my phone and directed it to her hands, and I found a blue hand with some spots and swellings. I shone the flashlight in front of me and saw Layla standing next to me, her face filled with fear. I was afraid to look beside me to see something that I might not like, and my heart might stop at that moment. The hand I was holding began to heat up in a strange way. I let go of it and started to walk slowly towards Layla, and Layla was also coming towards me. I fell to the ground and ran towards her, but something grabbed my leg and knocked me down. I surrendered at that moment, not knowing what to do. I heard the sound of something moving in the next room. Imagine with me, I saw the bed in the room moving and pushing towards the center of the house. And who do you think was moving it? I never expected it to be a small child. When I saw him, he looked like he was 2 years old, pushing the big bed that needed 3 people to move it. The child was pushing as if it were something like a goat, and his legs had cracks, and his head was larger than his size. While I was watching, Layla turned her back to the room and fell to the ground. I began to watch what would happen, and I saw the child standing, his eyes shining like a cat's eyes in the dark. I said to myself, no, I am definitely going crazy. This is all not real. The light returned, and I saw the mother of Layla standing in front of me. Then it went out again. I heard a very loud scream when the light returned. I saw the mother of Layla standing with water in her hand, and she said to me, "Get up, Amir, get up. Enough. Get up and help Layla from the ground." I said to her, "You must take me to the herbalist now." She said, "We all need to go, my son." We went to the herbalist and I entered and said to him, "Look at me. I need a solution. I am about to commit suicide." He said to me, "Do you want to die as a disbeliever?" I replied, "No, that is not what I want." I asked him to find me a solution because I do not want to die as a disbeliever. He told me, "There is someone who can help us, but he is not a well-known person. Perhaps he can provide us with something." I replied, "Okay, the important thing is to find something to follow. Maybe we will find the solution." He took me to a man who lived in a house under the stairs, and he looked poor. We entered, and the herbalist said to him, "How are you, the possessed one?" The possessed man did not respond to us. He was bowing his head and shaking it, speaking in incomprehensible words. I asked the herbalist, "Is this the person who will tell us about the book?" He said, "Don't rush, he is like this." Then the herbalist asked the possessed man, We want to know where the book of the devil's torment is. The possessed man did not answer, so the herbalist repeated his question. The possessed man said, the book is buried in the old cemetery. No ordinary human or jinn enters it. I asked, and who enters it then? He replied, only 7 kings of the jinn. I said, that sounds strange. Are you sure? He answered, yes, these kings were created before humans, and there was great corruption on earth, and many tribes were killed because of that battle. I asked him, is this battle mentioned in history books? He said, no, even I do not know of any book. Then the herbalist said, sorry, possessed one, I am talking to you, not with you. Tell us where the book is. May God reward you well. The possessed man looked at us and said, the book you are looking for is in a village called Tisi, a rare village where the land is dead, and darkness prevails everywhere. When night comes, the music of the book begins. I asked, does that mean the music comes from the book? He said, yes. More than 7,000 lower creatures play at the same time. I paused for a moment, then the possessed man returned to his previous state, began to move, and spoke to himself as if he had transformed from a sane person to an insane one. Then the herbalist said, let's go. Be careful. The book is buried in the cemetery of a dangerous sorcerer. It was buried by the jinn, not by humans. You must memorize the melody to be able to manage to take the book from its embrace, and we thanked him a lot, then we returned home. The herbalist said to me, my mission here is over. I said to him, are you going to leave me and Layla alone? He replied, I have children I need to raise, and I am afraid something will happen to me. I said, I understand that, and you have the right to. May God have mercy on your parents. We returned to the mother of Layla and her daughter, and we told them what the possessed man had said. The mother of Layla said to me, my daughter will need you. I knew that. Take her with you, but take care of her. May God be pleased with you, my son, for she has no one but you. I said to her, Layla, she is my responsibility, and I promise you that I will not harm her or let her come to any harm. Layla and I decided to travel to search for the book. As we were leaving the house, the herbalist said to me, wait, Wadi, wait for the mother of Layla. She stood with me for a long time. I will never forget that. We set off on the road to the village, and as we were on the way, I asked about its location, noticing the astonishment on people's faces. We arrived at the village safely, and it was exactly as the possessed man had described. There were very few people, and the land truly felt dead. The village looked quite gloomy. As we walked through the village, we stopped at a man who said to us, who are you? You are strangers in this village, aren't you? I said to him, yes, we are from afar. He asked me, are you looking for someone? I replied, no, I came to visit my uncle's grave. He said, your uncle's grave? Do you think the graves here in the village are abandoned? No one is buried here. People are buried in the neighboring village, not here. I told him, my uncle died a long time ago. He said, no one enters those graves. There is a rumor that scares people, saying that whoever enters does not return. I said to him, but I came from afar. I will enter. He replied, do as you wish, but remember what I told you. Whoever enters does not return. I answered, I heard you well. He said, I wish you well. May God help you. We continued until we reached near the cemetery located at the edge of the village. We waited until darkness fell because the music the possessed man told us about does not start until night. Indeed, the sun set, and night came and we entered the cemetery. It is known that cemeteries are silent and have a strange stillness. But this particular cemetery felt devoid of any sound. There was a heavy atmosphere on the heart. The air was thick with an unsettling chill, and the moonlight barely penetrated the dense clouds above. The herbalist said to us, listen, the music is good. Hear that distant sound, focus on it to hear it. I said to Layla, do you hear that distant music? She nodded, yes. I said to her, try to memorize it, because we will need it. Layla continued to focus on that sound while we headed towards the large grave at the end of the cemetery. At one moment, Layla took out the flute, and the herbalist and I began to dig in the ground, and the sound of the music rose as we dug deeper. At one moment, we took a break from digging, and we heard the sound of someone walking and dragging their feet on the ground. The herbalist said to me, this cemetery is supposed to be unentered by anyone. I said to him, let's keep digging. But I noticed that we were digging a lot, and the dirt we were removing kept falling back in. I dug in the middle of that grave, and I began to dig with my hands. After a while, I found a skeleton lying on its stomach, holding a book in its hands. The herbalist said to me, "So hand me the book." I took the book from the skeleton's hand and handed it to him. After I handed him the book, the herbalist slapped me in the face, and I fell to the ground. The surprise was that the herbalist was the one who hit me and also hit Layla. He said, "What are you doing?" "I came with you to help you. I knew where the book was, but I didn't want to risk my life. I brought you to extract this book for me," which was the only thing that mattered. I said to him, feeling dizzy from that blow, "Why did you do that? You traitor." He said, "Yes, I betrayed you, but I wanted to ensure the book was in safe hands." Suddenly, I saw something strange. The herbalist was kneeling, holding his head, his eyes wide open, and he began to speak. "What is this?" "No, this isn't real. I'm just imagining things. This isn't real." Then I saw the old man return, coming from behind the grave, accompanied by many people who looked like him. The herbalist started to thrash on the ground, his body rising and falling rapidly, as if he were being struck. At that moment, the music began to play from the book, and I grabbed Layla by the hand and pulled her away from the herbalist. The old man was approaching us, along with the people who were hiding and appearing in different places. I lost hope and thought to myself, I will die now. I couldn't convince myself that what I was seeing was a hallucination or a dream, and I decided to close my eyes. I placed my hand over Layla's eyes, shut my own, and prepared for the end. I felt the old man's breath getting closer to my face, and suddenly I heard the flute again, playing that music that was meant to save us. I opened my eyes and saw the old man fading away as if he were dissolving into the air, like ash blowing away. In the end, nothing remained, as if the old man had never existed. I asked Layla, "Are you okay?" She replied, "Yes, thank God." I was very surprised and asked her, "Are you back to talking?" She said, "Thank God the spell has been broken." I asked her, "Who played that song and saved us from certain death?" I saw the mother of Layla under a tree, and she said, "I played the melody. I taught Layla how to play." I doubted that the herbalist was a charlatan, and thank God I arrived before anything happened to you. His old wife came to me and asked about him, confessing everything. It turned out that he was the one who had cast the spell on Layla to make her marry him, but I had refused because my daughter was still young, and he was married. She told us, "If you are from here, we must leave." I ran toward the herbalist and threw him at the sorcerer, tossed the book at him, quickly filled the hole, and ended the story of the lower creature. We returned home, Layla got married, and God blessed us with a child who is now 5 years old. Blessed be God. But not all stories end happily. My story contains a mystery I still don't understand. There is something strange, which is that my son came one day and said to me, "Dad, I found her waiting under my pillow." I said to him, "Open your mouth, my son. All your teeth are fine." I didn't want to think too much about it, and thank God, even to this moment. But the unease lingered. I often found myself glancing at the shadows in our home, half expecting to see the old man or the black cat lurking in the corners. The memories of that night haunted me, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still watching us, waiting for the right moment to strike again. One night, as I was tucking my son into bed, he looked up at me with wide eyes and whispered, "Dad, can I tell you a secret?" I nodded, my heart racing. "I saw a cat in my room last night. It had one red eye and one normal eye, just like the one you told me about." My blood ran cold. I forced a smile, trying to reassure him, but inside I was terrified. I decided to take action. I gathered the family and told them everything that had happened, from the summoning to the strange occurrences after. My wife, initially skeptical, began to believe me when she noticed the odd happenings around the house. The flickering lights, the cold drafts, and the whispers that seemed to echo through the halls at night. We sought help from a local imam who advised us to perform a cleansing ritual in our home. He brought with him holy water and recited verses from the Quran, filling the air with a sense of peace. As he finished, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders, but I knew deep down that the battle was far from over. That night, as I lay in bed, I heard a soft scratching sound coming from my son's room. My heart raced as I tiptoed down the hallway, the shadows dancing ominously around me. I opened the door to find my son sitting up in bed, staring wide-eyed at the corner of the room. "Dad, it's back," he whispered, trembling. I turned to look, and there it was, the black cat, its eyes glowing in the darkness, watching us intently. I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized that the creature was not just a figment of my imagination. It was real, and it had returned. In that moment, I knew we had to confront this darkness once and for all. I gathered my family and the imam once more, and together we faced the entity that had tormented us for so long. We recited prayers, our voices rising in unison, drowning out the whispers that filled the air. As the final words left our lips, the cat let out a piercing screech and vanished into thin air, leaving behind an eerie silence. We stood there, breathless, knowing that we had faced our fears and emerged victorious. But even now, as I recount this tale, I sense a chill in the air, a whisper of something ancient and restless. The darkness may have receded for now, but its presence lingers like a shadow at the periphery of my vision. I share this story not just as a warning, but as a reminder that curiosity can be a double-edged sword. We tread a fine line between the known and the unknown, and sometimes the most profound truths lie in the silence we choose to honor. So heed my words. Some doors are best left closed, for the echoes of what lies beyond can haunt us in ways we cannot begin to fathom. And as I close this chapter, I can't help but wonder, what else might be waiting, just out of sight for the moment we dare to look away?